Hello, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hold on. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, today is Monday, November 5th. This is the Kubernetes CSI implementation meeting. Let's jump right in and go to 1.12 status. All right. So we have these snapshot E2E tests. I think Xing said she couldn't make it today. Let's see. I reviewed this a little bit on Friday. I'm not sure if any progress was made. Yeah, I reviewed this on Friday, but it looks like they haven't taken a look at it yet. So we'll have to get a status on this next time. Topology test. Cheng, do you have an update?
No progress updates since Friday.
All right.
So aiming to finish by Wednesday.
Okay, great. And then the pod workload E2E tests. How is this going? Okay, I reviewed this on Friday as well. It looks like it has not been addressed yet. I'll sync up with Fabio on that. All right. Okay, going to the Q4 113 tasks. I think this one, moving the objects to V1, this is on hold until we get our CSI dependencies out.
I think we should go ahead and merge this. And then if the CSI dependencies end up being an issue, we can roll it back. That way we're not surprised last minute by anything.
Okay, sounds good.
So I'll go ahead and LGTM that.
Right. Are you?
All right, you should be good.
Okay. Yeah, then I'll go ahead and ping Jordan to review from the API side.
Okay.
All right. Next is the, okay, update here. Let's merge this and we can roll back if necessary. All right, next is the kubelet device registration to GA.
Yes, I'm here. So yesterday, or not yesterday, but Friday after our call, I started pinging people and posting in the node, SIG node Slack, trying to get attention to the PR. I did that again this morning before this call. I haven't gotten anybody's attention. Like I said, Renault, who is the owner of that code, I think he's traveling right now, so he may be available tomorrow. So I'll kind of get him to start reviewing it. He did it very briefly on Wednesday, but I'm gonna need him to also start going into it as well. So we'll see.
Okay. And it looks like you pinged Tim Auclair on that. I can go ahead and try to ping him in person to take a look.
Tim is the right person.
Is Tim, do you know, is Tim the right approver? Did he review the Renault's?
He's one of the owners in that section.
Okay. But do you know who actually was the node side approver for the
Might have been Vish.
Okay. Maybe I can sync up with Vish too.
So okay.
I'm just wondering, like, who was the node approver that might have like the most context on this feature. So
I'm not sure, because the last go around, Renault got the ball rolling along with Vicus.
Okay.
Vickers, I haven't seen being too terribly involved in this anymore. So I'll look to see through some history back in Slack conversation to see if any other names are mentioned.
Okay. I'll go ahead and also ping Vish on this.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and this is the, let's see, this moves it to GA. And then there was the CSI counterpart to implement deregistration.
Yeah, that's already merged in.
Okay, did we need to sanity check that we're cleaning up the CSI node info object correctly?
So the cool thing is that's already being done. So basically that the PR that got merged is making a call to all the machinery that's already in the code to do that, to clear the node information and clear the in-memory struct that keeps track of the driver.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
All right. Next is the Crd installation mechanism.
Yeah, so PR is green. Everything looks good. I've tested it. I'm just waiting for approval right now, and I'm going to ping Lava Lamp and Mike Denise today to try to get that approval, but it should be good to go.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. Next is topology to beta. I think Deep is traveling right now, so he gave me an update. He says he should have a PR out for this, or not the webhook, but for this workaround validation. He should have the PR out later today. And then the last thing other than that is we need the E2E tests for this feature. Next is moving the CSI driver and CSI node info objects from alpha to beta. I think this is basically blocked on two things. We need the CRD installation and also, oh no, three things. We need to...
CRD installation shouldn't really be blocking it now.
Well, like we can't merge it until we have
okay.
CRD installation. There's David's changes that he's making for migration. Were we able to resolve any of the issues here?
I don't believe so.
Okay, we'll have to sync up with David. And then the last thing is we need E2E tests for all of the features that we're going to move to beta.
Let me take a look at this one and see if it's updated, but keep going.
Okay. Next is moving the CSI spec to 1.0.
Yes, we're looking good there. So far, we still have 4 P0s, but we haven't finished triage yet. We have meetings scheduled every day this week to continue to triage issues and triage PRs that are coming in. So it's still tight, but looks reasonable. We're targeting RC on Monday, and that's the current plan. This is the most at-risk feature at this point, but it looks like it's on track.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. Next is moving all the RBAC definitions from in tree to out of tree.
Yeah, I have made some progress, and as usual, it's one step forward, one step back. I'm now back to having 3 pending pull requests. The RBAC rules that we had in that external attacher turned out to have one missing line that causes kubectl to throw a validation error, and I ended up copying that error also into the external provisioner. So it somehow works in the end-to-end testing, but kubectl is a bit more picky and complains, so we need to fix that. And when reviewing the docs, I found that external snapshotter also needs to have its separate RBAC file. So that's the 3rd pull request that's now pending. The good news is after with those updated files, I can update the docs and manually walk through creating everything. My current thinking is that we shouldn't have a copy of those files in the docs repository anymore, because in that repo we can use kubectl and just point to the individual URLs in the different repositories, which means we have a bit less work updating these things in the future.
Yeah, that sounds great. Feel free to assign me to any of those PRs if you're not getting reviewer attention.
Okay.
All right, next is the flaky E2E test.
Yeah, well, it turns out to be a bit more complicated. So we do have full logs now, but it does seem to be an issue inside kubelet itself. Specifically, the logic in reconciler.go around which volumes it considers attached under with which attributes. I have updated that particular bug entry with a comment or with an analysis that I did today about a good run on my local machine and a bad run, as it happens in the in the automated testing, and it shows that basically two operations are active at the same time. One is unmounting and removing the information from the first pod, or in response to deleting the first pod, and then the mount operation ends up skipping one step that seems to be crucial because it gets some incomplete information from the cache or from the current state of the world. And I'm not at all sure how that logic is supposed to handle this race condition. So I'm not sure how to fix it.
Yeah, this might be something maybe we might need Jing or Hamat to help look into this. It looks like there might be some funky race condition issues. So.
And Michelle pointed out that there's a second issue, which is also a race condition in that very same code. It might even be the same one. It's not. The symptoms are a bit different, but it's clearly another race. So we might end up killing two bugs with one solution if we figure out how to avoid these races.
Yep, sounds good. I will go ahead and maybe I'll ping Jing today and see if she thinks the two issues might be related. All right, thanks for the progress on that. Next is Luis splitting up the repos.
Yeah, and I'll be starting that on this week.
Cool, thanks. Let's see. Do we have, improved documentation? Do we have any outstanding doc updates that need review? Looks like this one's merged. So we're good on this. All right. Moving up onto miscellaneous updates. There's a few read-only bugs that we have been dealing with. One is related to the subpath tests that we have. I think basically so the underlying issue is that mount propagation doesn't actually propagate read-only settings. So in your CSI plugin, if you bind mount your volume as read-only, then on the host, that mount is actually still writable. I'm going to have a fix out for this today. It mainly just impacts the subpath volumes, because it turns out that the container runtime will still end up bind mounting it read-only, even if the host didn't.
So effectively, it's not an issue, or how does it surface?
It's an issue with subpath, because subpath is in between the plugin mount and the CRI mount, and subpath has a feature where if the the subpath doesn't exist, it will create a directory for it.
Okay.
And so it's only that subpath part that's impacted by the fact that the volume plugin didn't actually mount it read-only.
Okay.
There's another issue that Saad pointed out around read-only where like it's currently not possible to attach a volume as read-only.
Yeah. So I looked at that more, and based on your latest comments of the CRI doing the last mile mount, I think the overall issue is not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
The worst part is just not having a good way to be able to control if we can attach as read-only or not. And if you open up that issue, I wanted to run by a new proposal.
Okay.
I haven't written it down yet, but here's what I'm thinking. So for, let me just scroll to the top. So currently the problem is that number 3 is the way that you control whether a volume is attached read-only or not, but there's really no way to specify that because it's on the PV object, and how do you control that? One way I was thinking about controlling it was introducing a new CSI read-only parameter on the external provisioner that allows you to control this value. That will allow you to set it initially to read-only or not.
On a parameter on the external provisioner.
Storage class.
Storage class.
Yeah.
Okay.
The challenge though is that you still can't change this value after the volume is provisioned. So if you provisioned it as read-only, it's going to be stuck as read-only.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to change it to read-write, you have to remove the PV and replace the PV object with a read-write version of that PV object, because I don't believe the PV object is mutable.
Yeah, I mean, can we use the access mode for this purpose?
We could. So we could say it's storage class, or if your access mode contains read-only. The only problem with access mode is you can specify multiple access modes. I guess if you only specify a single access mode and that's read-only, that's a good signal.
Mm-hmm.
So we could use that.
Currently,
if you specify multiple access modes, then
you're kind of out of luck. Yeah. I think currently the way dynamic provisioning works is it only takes one access mode, I think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what happens if you create a PVC with multiple access modes and you want it to be dynamically provisioned. I don't know what the access modes on the PV end up looking like.
Yeah. So that seems viable. One other option I was considering was for number 2 to be an overloaded value, for it to be like a master switch.
For both mount and attach.
Basically, if you set this on a given volume, it already controls whether that volume is mounted read-only or not. We could also have it plumb through to...
I think this is how it works for entry.
Does it control attach though?
I have to check. Yeah. I think it might be easiest for whatever controls the entry. We also use the same thing for CSI.
For consistency.
And also for migration, that we would probably want to be as close to entry as possible.
So that's a second option to consider. And then the third thing I wanted to do was, in preparation for inline, add the read-only field to the volume attachment object. That we should do regardless. So I will go ahead and do that, unless somebody else on this call is willing to do the work for that.
I guess how much of this needs to be done for GA?
Volume attachment, having a new read-only field. Actually, that could be additive in the future too. Because it's not technically bad.
Are we talking about the you said the volume, what is it, internal volume object? Is that what we're talking about? Not the API object.
Volume attachment object that we have, the built-in object.
Attachment.
Yeah, I was thinking about adding a new read-only field there for inline. I guess we could technically align that with the inline work. It doesn't have to go in.
Yes, we could. Well, so the volume attachment is for the inline stuff. At least it'll have a reference back to the volume source, which I don't. Oh, it doesn't have the read only. You're right. Okay.
Well, I guess volume source. The volume source for PVC will have the read only field.
Do we have just a
right
the PVC, or do we have the actual entire?
I thought it was the volume source. So it's not the PVC object; it's the PVC source.
So it's
the source. Yeah, that's the source.
Is it is the volume source a reference or a copy?
For inline, it's not a reference. It's an actual copy for inline.
So
for PVC, it's a reference.
PVC, it's a reference. Okay, I think that should be fine then. So we don't need the volume attachment stuff immediately. The change that I want to make for number 3 is external only. It's a new parameter on the CSI, on the storage class, which is CSI external provisioner. The only entry change we might need to do is if for number 2 we want it to be a master switch. How do we make that happen? For that, we would need to introduce a new read-only field on volume attachment because there's no way to pass that. The external attacher doesn't have access to the pod object. And we need to modify the Kubernetes code to set that field.
Okay, so I think maybe a good next step is to figure out what entry does for attach, and then we can see. Yeah,
that seems reasonable. I'll take a look at that.
Okay, cool. Let's see. Next, volume operation metrics for CSI. I think Hamad said he could work on this, so I'll go ahead and ping him for updates on this.
Is this a blocker for 1.0? What's the issue?
The issue is that all our metrics aggregate all CSI plugins together. So you can't distinguish the metrics between different CSI plugins. I think it would be pretty important to have for GA.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next is there's a bug with the volume attach limits that doesn't work with when you enable the alpha features. Hamad has merged a fix for this, so I think this is done. Next is Luis on extending sidecar containers.
Yeah, something that was brought up to me last week or late last week. We were looking at preparing our CSI driver for GA, and one of the things that we noticed is that our in-tree driver has some benefits by being in trees. Is that it looks at the PV and PVC, provides some features for the user, as in being able to encrypt the volume and things like that using secrets, information. With our CSI driver, we would not have any of that information, and that's a problem. So one of the things that we wanted to do is how is it that we can provide a solution for that. Maybe what we could do, this is now brainstorming that, is provide extensions to the Sidecar containers so that driver developers can create their own Sidecar containers, based on the current work, so we don't step on each other, and be able to extend it so that we can, for example, this is what was an idea we could do is we could take the PV and PVC information and put it in the volume ops, which is what we do today. And like namespace information, we need that. And we can put it in the volume options and then go
I
ahead.
know this was kind of an issue that was brought up last quarter for the inline stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, for the ephemeral volume stuff. And one of the things that the volume plugins wanted was the pod information. So we did that workaround with the pod workload information being passed through.
Right.
Can we take a look at some of these use cases on a case-by-case basis and see if there is like common things that would be worth adding in to the core, the same way that we did the workload info thing. I think you mentioned encryption and secrets. I think that should already be covered with the existing API, but I'd be interested in hearing what other use cases you have and seeing if we can come up with something that'll work for everyone.
Yeah, one of the things that we're looking forward to in the future is ownership of resources. And one of the things we want to do is, for example, as a user, I want to have a token to be able to mount this volume. And that's something that somehow needs to go across to the, like that type of ownership.
A token to mount this volume is like a secret?
Yeah, you can think about it that way, yes.
So would the existing secret mechanism for CSI be sufficient?
That secret for CSI, I thought it was, I haven't taken a look at it in detail, but I thought that was more specific to accessing of the CSI driver. That was static to the CSI driver, not as something dynamic per user.
There's two sets of secrets. One is the secret that is injected into the container when the container is started for your CSI driver.
Yeah.
The purpose of that is it's static and it's just like some secret to contact some backend. A second set of secrets is passed on every RPC that you have for CSI. So create volume, mount, unmount, attach, detach. Every one of those calls has the ability to specify its own secret. So that might be what you're looking for.
And that's per secret per user?
It's per secret per RPC, so it could be per user.
Yeah, but isn't it set by the storage class? So the user would have to deploy their own storage class to modify those secrets.
No. So so what we did was, I think not last quarter, the 2 quarters ago, we allowed templating the storage class name for the secret so that it could be different for multiple consumers of the storage class.
Okay.
Fixed name.
Oh, interesting. Thank you, Michelle, for taking these notes. Do you mind if you know this, Saad, like the issue, the GitHub issue that for the feature that you did this?
Yes.
Even better. Where is the documentation?
I think the documentation's on Kubernetes-IO. I'll find it and link it here.
Yeah, that's a good point. But anyway, that's what I have. So if that's already a solution, that'll be awesome.
Cool.
All right, awesome. Next is the block volume stuff. I think this is being resolved in CSI. Is that right?
Last week we had a meeting, I think, Vladimir, right?
Yeah, we had that meeting last week, and let's see. I can't recall what the outcome was. I believe internal. Yeah.
We're just going to use the mount for block, and it's the CEO's responsibility to create a file if it's a block, or a directory if it's a file.
Yeah. So I think the conclusion was we're going to change that wording in the CSI spec, and I think we opened up issues on the CSI spec to track this. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an issue floating around to clarify the language on the spec itself.
All right, awesome. Let's see. Next is block volume to beta. I think we decided that for this release, we're going to keep it in alpha. until we actually have some drivers that are implementing the full API so that we can get better testing on it.
Yep.
Let's see. Let me up to this. All right. And then, okay, these PRs for refactoring, we're going to postpone to the next release. Okay. Next is tasks independent of CSIGA. I guess Xing is not here, so we can get an update on snapshots next time. Inline volume support. I know, Vlad, you have a lot of stuff to do for 113, so I think the status was we're gonna put this off until later. Is that correct?
That is correct. I think Sergey is on the call. He came back and said he'd be interested in helping me out on this, so I'll work with him.
Okay.
To see if we can get this out.
Yeah, if we
for
can get
113.
that'd be awesome. But I'm glad you're focused on the other stuff. Stay focused on that. If Sergey can pick this up, that would be great.
All right.
Yeah.
And also did I think there was someone like in the community, Kevin or something, that also wanted to help with this. Is that right?
Oh yeah, somebody. Fox something.
K Fox?
Yeah, K Fox.
K Fox.
Yeah.
Yes. He had reached out and basically he was just letting me know why he wanted to see this out. But I'm not sure if he'll be able to participate.
Okay.
As far as coding, that's
Okay,
where we
awesome.
left the conversation.
So I guess
Yep.
okay, yeah. If Sergey, you have time to help out with this, I guess you can sync up with Vlad to just like figure out what needs to be done.
Yeah, we'll do.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, CSI block beta. We already talked about this. Let's see, CSI migration. I guess we don't have David or Deep on here. So do you know the status on this?
Haven't heard anything new. It was on track as of last week.
Okay, cool. Awesome. That's all we have on the agenda. Is there anything else anyone wants to bring up?
So a reminder, next week is code freeze. Let's target to try and get as much work done this week as possible so that we're not right up against the deadline. I'm sure there's going to be new issues that are going to crop up. If you have pending PRs, aim to get them merged by the end of this week. Ping approvers if you need help finding approvers. Ping Michelle, ping me. And let's unblock as much of this as possible and try to land this. That's pretty much it.
Just a quick thing. It looks like we have new people on the line, and I just don't know if you have questions. They have any questions for us, or?
Are you referring to?
I might be one of the new people.
Yes.
Go ahead, Maria. Go ahead.
Hi. Hi, my name is Maria. I work for Pivotal in the London office, and Vlad invited me to this meeting last week, but I was out for a couple of days. Hannes and I submitted a couple of refactoring PRs, which I think might be pushed to the next release, as you are working really hard for making out of 3GA. So yeah, nothing too much. Like today was my first meeting, my first attendance of this meeting, so I was just trying to see how this is all structured. If there's anything that we can help with, it sounds like there's a lot of work. Please, like if you send us to some pointers, then we can definitely make some time for that, if that helps at all. I don't know how, like, I guess not beginner ready, beginner easy, but
yeah. Does Pivotal want to, is it going to support CSI in their PKS?
We're looking at it at the moment. I think
Okay.
it's really interesting. Just the work that is being done to take CSI out of tree is definitely very interesting.
Alright.
And that extraction. Is there a good starting point for us to gain context?
Yeah, you can contact me. I'll point you to wherever you
Perfect.
need to go.
Sounds good.
All right, welcome, Maria.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks. I'll try and be a bit more consistent from now on.
That's all good. All right.
All right. Looks like that's all we have today. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.